I buy the Chargers this year. And I think if you have them over the Chiefs as a division, you're saying that you think they'll win the division. I'm not going to fight you at all. That's a totally valid thing to own. And I'm getting a little bit tired of but their Chargers are going to charge her. Yeah, I get last year they kind of did against the Raiders, but I think the Chargers charging was like 80% Phillip Rivers over the last decade and a half. So I think Herbert is just a better quarterback, and I think he's more clutch than Rivers as well. And I think with that, and I believe in Staley, I believe in what Telesco built. I like their moves this offseason. I think they are for real, and anybody picking the Chargers of the Chiefs, perfectly valid. I'm 50-50 on it. I'll probably just lean Chiefs because, we're Chiefs fans. But I don't think it's some like, it's the Chiefs until somebody else proves otherwise. I mean, like you're predicting. It's like predicting doesn't have to take into account the history. You're going off what you think will happen. I think the Chargers have a legitimate shot of winning the AFC West. I do not think that of the other two teams, though. Even though they will give them tough games, I think overall, I just don't believe in their quarterbacks enough. And the fact that they're first-time head coaches there, too. I don't believe in that as much to where I would put them up with the Chiefs and Chargers. I think they're in the next tier down. But they're still going to be good teams. I think both could make the playoffs.
I agree with what you said.
Was that one of yours?
That was my third. That was my least fiery take. So we're both on the same page there about the Chargers. I think they could win the AFC West. I don't want to say I think they could win the AFC, but I could see a distant scenario where they do go to the AFC Championship or something like that. Like, especially just in the regular season in the division, they don't have as tough of a schedule as the Chiefs. They have just as much talent throughout the roster. They have a great, elite young quarterback. They have a coach who he got crapped on too much last year. He's a good coach. He's getting his guys on defense this year. It's not I'm inheriting this roster and then I have one off season. It's I'm getting guys that can run the fronts that I want to run. The Chargers could win 12, 13 games this year, and I wouldn't be surprised. Yep. Now, will they? I don't know. But that was my third as well. So I pivot back to Conner. Let's hear your second, if you can decipher. If not, just rattle both of them off.
I'll go with this one then. I would still personally take, just for this year, I get why they did it, but I would still personally take Tyreek Hill and Pringle and D-Rob over Juju, MVS, and Sky Moore for this year. I get why they traded Tyreek Hill. I like the long-term outlook of trading him. But if I've seen people say, well, the depth at wide receiver is better, so that means this wide receiver core might be better. I'm like, is it? I would still take Tyreek, Pringle, and D-Rob over this wide receiver core. That elite player, because remember when Juju was signed, but Tyreek was not traded. There was a few days where that was the case, and we were gushing. We were like, oh my gosh, this offense is going to explode on the NFL. They could have done that and re-signed Tyreek Hill to the contract he got with Miami. They chose not to, and I totally agree with the reasoning there, but they could have done it. So if they wanted to have that wide receiver core with the better wide receiver too in Juju, they could have done it. So that elite player with a player of the caliber, I think he's a bit better than Pringle, but Pringle provided some good play last year to where I think Hill, Pringle, and D-Rob is better than Juju, MVS, Sky. I like both had McColl, so who cares about him in that equation?
No, both you just cut it off. All I heard was who cares about McCole Hardman. So Conner officially a hater.
Doesn't matter. So that's my hot take. I've seen people say, well, the depth is better, so the wide receiver. I'm like, I know that people are like buying the spread around narrative, but Tyreek Hill is one of the best wide receivers of the last 20 years. So I don't know about that.
Adjacent to spreading the love and the Chiefs wide receiving core being better and no Tyreek Hill, I don't think a single receiver gets 1,000 yards. And maybe that's not a very hot take because the only two who really have a chance are probably Juju and Hardman. I don't see Sky Moore doing that in year one because he's a rookie, obviously, in an Andy Reid offense. And I don't think MVS would spaz for that much. I don't think Josh Gordon gets 100 yards, let alone 1,000. Maybe that could have been my hot take. Yeah, Josh Gordon's not going to get up. He's cut. I maybe that should have been my hot take. For some reason, I just think he's going to make it. I don't know why. I don't know how. I feel like Josh Gordon's going to make it.
You know what's crazy? No, not a lot of people even talk. He's 31 years old, Jordan.
He's old AF and wasn't in the league for like 2 or 3 years.
And he's dropped like 3 passes last year.
He was brought in to be the contested catch guy who won individually, couldn't win individually, and couldn't make contested catches. Like, dude, your hands are tied. The Chiefs' hands are tied. He can't do anything. Granted, they did bring him back, but the people that are like, oh, well, they wouldn't bring him back if they didn't see something. And I'm like, it didn't really cost them anything to do it.
Yeah. It's a futures deal with pretty much no guaranteed money.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, he'll be in training camp, but that doesn't mean he's going to make it.
No, exactly. But I don't think a single wideout is going to get 1,000 yards.